Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Caite and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language. We're happy that you're joining us here today. Thankful even since we just wrapped up Canadian Thanksgiving. I know it wasn't Thanksgiving for you, Caite, but how was your weekend? What happened in Iowa? What's happening in Iowa these days? Do you have a whole lot of cute calves?
Very thankful, Arlene. We do have some more cute calves. We had another one born yesterday, even possibly cuter than the previous ones. Other than that, woke up this morning and it's supposed to rain today. It's like peak soup weather. Very, very thankful for that. I hate summer food. I'm going to say it. It's not my jam.
I don't like preparing salads is my thing. Someone else makes me a salad, I'm delighted. I have to make a salad, annoyed.
Exactly. And there's no part of making a salad that quite hits that, like when you have soup simmering on the stove all day and the whole house smells like soup and it's, and it's so cozy. Like there's no, a big bowl of lettuce just doesn't really.
Yeah, there's not a salad version of that with the same coziness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are salads that involve a lot of roasted vegetables, but then that doesn't feel like a summer food either because you're roasting things.
You're in fall mode.
Other than that, lots of combines out in the neighborhood, lots of grain dryers running all night. Not too many accidents I've seen reported, which is always nice. Other than that, we got our sheep barn re-roofed last week. Looks really nice. It'll be real nice not to get rained on. So that's always good. We sorted sheep out for breeding this weekend.
So, Caite, I'm not trying to judge you, but I'm just asking a question for my own curiosity. Now that your kids are taking the bus to school, when was the last time you left the farm?
Trying to remember if it was Friday. Thursday? I think it was Thursday.
Okay, we're recording on a Tuesday. I wasn't sure if that answer was going to be yesterday or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was within the last week. Is this only because I go to knit night every week? Possibly. Let's just put it that way.
Right, so a regular Thursday departure.
I feel like I left more recently than that, but I don't know where I would have gone, so I probably didn't go anywhere. No, I would, other than knit night, pretty happily never leave the farm again. I never thought I'd be this person, but here we are. The miracles of home delivery and online books and occasionally taking the kids to the library. So I think I left the house twice the week before last. So I feel like that should count for something. Arlene. Also, some of us live further from town than you do. I mean, many, many people live further from town than I do, but I feel like that wasn't nearly as judgy as what I was expecting from the way you approached that question.
Just a curiosity question.
Arlene, I did, before we pivot to you, I saw your family photo. Your family's looking gorgeous as usual. I see your daughter has changed her hair to an even more intimidating vibe, which I assume is to scare competitors in the cattle ring. And did I see that only one of your family members is at all shorter than you now?
Yes, I expect by next Thanksgiving I will be the shortest in the family. I'm 5'5", and my 2 teen boys tower over me now, and my 10-year-old is really creeping up. We're getting close in height. So I would suspect if we get a family photo next Thanksgiving, you will see that I'm the shortest one in the family, but that's okay. My husband's on track to be maybe in the middle. He is definitely already shorter than the 2 middle boys, but I still think a little bit taller than my daughter. So maybe he'll be a solid number 3. And sorry to our listeners, we don't actually share any pictures of our kids on our socials, so you can't see them, but they're cute.
Arlene's family is even more attractive than you're envisioning. Arlene, I only bring this up because the neighbor boy, who in my mind is still 3, came up to sell FFA fruit a few days ago. And I'm 5'10", and he is quite a bit taller than I am. And he's 15, I think. So he's probably still got a ways to go.
Yeah, my 14-year-old I expect is gonna happen. He's got some growing left, and he's probably gonna be taller than his older brother. He's definitely quite stretchy.
That becoming an old has hit pretty hard in the last couple of years with nieces who I remember as babies. As someone who didn't grow up with a lot of kids around, it's a newfangled feeling to see all these babies, getting driver's licenses and getting taller than I am. And especially as a tall person, it's kind of a shocker to see small people get taller than you. Anyway, how are things at your place, Arlene?
We had a nice Thanksgiving weekend. We fit in both sides of the family for gatherings, so that was good. We went to a play with my side of the family. There's a local theater that's actually really well attended. It's kind of outsized, one of those places where the town is small, but somehow the theater draws people from all over the place. It's quite cute. And in the summertime, it's right on the St. Lawrence, so right on the US border. So in the summer, there's a marina attached out front and it's filled with boats, and people can boat over and go to the play. And, so not as much of that vibe in October, but it was definitely a full theater. We went to go see 9 to 5, which many of you would recognize as probably the movie version that has Dolly Parton in it, and it was actually written by Dolly Parton, so this was the musical version. And there's this misogynistic boss who, is propositioning the Dolly Parton character in the movie and in the play, and so there were some more suggestive themes, and I didn't think it was that bad, but, we were walking back to the van after the play, and my 10-year-old says to my husband and I don't think that was appropriate for me. So I guess we should have checked the rating on the play before we bought him. But I think it was still very entertaining, and maybe he'll ask us some questions later on. And after that, we went to my mom's place, my mom's cottage for supper and our annual Thanksgiving swim. So, an annual tradition for some of us, not everyone enjoys a cold plunge. So, that's fine. Some of us go for a swim, and some of the others stay by the fire and watch us and do not participate, which is fine. And I guess that was the main stuff for the week. We do have one more cow show this week. So the animals left today to go move into the fairgrounds where it's being held. This one is just a Holstein show. So on my morning walk, I went back past the show heifer barn, and our lonely Jerseys were bawling because they missed their friends. But they're feeling sad and alone, but I'm sure that they will be fine. Anyway, why don't we go ahead and introduce our guest for this week?
All right, sounds good.
Today, we are excited to be talking to Sally Crowe, who's joining us from Caithness in northern Scotland. So, Sally, we always start our interviews with the exact same question, and this is your way to introduce yourself to our listeners. So, we're going to ask you, what are you growing? Which can be for mostly our farmer guests, crops and livestock and kids, but also businesses and all kinds of other stuff because we know people are growing in lots of different ways. So, Sally, welcome, and what are you growing?
Hi both, how are you? What am I growing here? Well, at the moment I am growing cows, sheep, chickens. William, one little child, he's 5-year-old. I'm growing my business online. I started doing some coaching, some passive income products. Probably growing my blood pressure a bit higher as well in the middle of it all. Yeah, kind of just growing a good life, I think, is the main one at the moment. I'm living the dream here, really.
That is a great goal to have. So, since we're mostly farmer listeners, we always ask the types of questions that farmers want to know. So, what kinds of cows, sheep, and chickens are we talking about, and how many?
I'm on a croft in Scotland, which is a small holding basically for everybody else. It's 65 acres, 25 acres owned, 40 odd rented. The cows I have, neither of you would probably have seen them because they're a rare breed. They're Irish moiled, which is they were down to only about 30 of them at one point in the 70s. We're up to about 1,500 females now. They're a beautiful red and white breed, naturally polled, easy growing, medium size, taste beautiful. I sell the beef from beef boxes. My sheep are Hill Cheviots, which are pretty much native to this area. I kind of go with have this livestock that fits your area rather than trying to work with other ones. I've had Continentals, I've had Limousines, Belgian Blues, I bred Texels for about 30 odd years. Loved them, but my vets loved me, my feed reps loved me. Whereas now I'm not doing quite so much of that sort of stuff. And my hens are bog standard brown, Loam browns for eggs for my customers as well. Not for us at the moment because the fox got half of them and we've not had eggs for about 4 weeks. So hopefully soon we'll get some more eggs.
So, Sally, I just Googled these Irish moiled because you're right, I had not heard of them, which I know a lot of rare breeds. I'm kind of surprised to find one I had never heard of. Um, they're shaped a lot like we raise beef Normandy cattle, and they're shaped very similarly for our dairy farmer friends. These cows are real short and real fat, which I like. Dairy cattle are just too tall for my personal enjoyment. Sally, while I don't want to say stalking your social media, but I was enjoying your social media. I saw a photo
Researching.
researching, that does sound better. I noticed that there was a photo of your Cheviots where they were yellow. Is that a product that's applied, or is this some like Scottish sheep thing that I don't know about?
Those were Cheviot mules, so they would be Cheviot crossed with Blueface Leicester. Over here, pretty much any sheep breed crossed with a Blueface Leicester gives you a mule. So the Cheviot mule, Scotch mule, Welsh mule, English mule, Texel mule, loads of different types of mule. For selling them, you tend to colour them. And it traditionally went with the blackies. It would be peat, the dip at your local barn, basically, would give you the colour. Some of them are purpley colours, some are brown, some are yellow. Those yellow ones, I kind of got the colour a little bit wrong, so they went a bit fluorescent. They were meant to be a bit brownier. Uh, they were a couple of years ago. They sold a lot. They sold well, so it was okay. It's just to tart them up to make them look better in the ring when you sell them, basically. I've moved away. I don't have Cheviot mules because Blueface Leicesters are beautiful, but they're incredibly soft. They have like the finest wool of native breeds in Scotland, but there's very little lanolin in it. There's very little fat on those. The reason they cross so well, I read this not that long ago, the reason they cross so well is genetically, you've got, if you take a bar graph, or a spot graph, you've got the cluster of all sheep breeds in the bottom right-hand corner. And then the bottom left-hand corner, top left, you've got Blueface Leicesters that are totally genetically different. So that's why they cross so well and they put the F1 hardiness and everything into the sheep. As a breed, they're beautiful, but they're so soft and they ain't suited to Caithness weather at all. They just don't live up here.
It's as a fiber person, I see their fiber used a lot for, especially for hand spun, but I don't know anyone who raises them, which makes me think that they're probably a pain in the ass.
They are. Yeah, pain in the arse is the best way. They're beautiful. I love them. I actually had my wool spun up a couple of times. Price wise, it didn't work out, having it spun by somebody else. Hand spinning might have been better, but didn't quite. I think I got rooked, basically. The woman that did it kind of did me a little bit, but they don't produce a huge fleece. Their fleece is sort of kilo, 800 grams to a kilo, so they're quite small. There's a small child at my door again.
So when it comes to feeding your animals, are you growing any crops where you live, or are they pasture based, or what does that look like for you?
100%. I'm aiming to be 100% pasture based. One of the reasons I picked the Irish Moil and the Hill Cheviots is that they can be near enough 100% pasture based. When we wean the calves, we feed them we support them over that sort of first couple of months. They're all housed here in winter, my cattle. Just where I am, right on top of the hill, we have no shelter. The winds come out of Norway to here, basically, and it's wild. You see the poor cows trying to hide behind a fence post and try and get a little bit of shelter and from the wind and the rain, so they come in. The sheep, pretty much the ewes, I've got them nearly 100% pasture based. Now I have some that I'm still having to support. We've only started down that route for the last couple of years, so we're still in that transition kind of period. Poultry I buy in, obviously. I don't grow any of it. I've looked at home mixed feeds and that, but I haven't quite had the guts to try it yet to see. So maybe down the line yet.
So the other thing you mentioned when you were talking about growing was your business ventures. Do you want to talk a little bit about those while we're still on the topic of growing things?
Well, I do. I've been selling beef and lamb boxes for about 13 years. And over about 5 or 6 years, I suddenly noticed a lot of people asking me how I do it, picking my brains. What do you have to register as? Who do you have to speak to? Where do you buy boxes? How much do you sell it for? And I was telling people all the time because I love selling direct, and I think more small farmers, it's ideal for crofters and small farmers to sell direct. It's great. I absolutely hate that it's classed as a diversification, because in no other business is a producer selling their product to the end consumer seen as a diversification. But in farming, us selling our meat direct is, which blows my mind at how ridiculous that we've got to this stage all over the world. Um, but then I kind of figured that I could make a bit of money out of it. Why am I giving this information that I've worked hard to gain? Why am I just giving it away? So I started a little course, and it was like 35 quid for a 2-part course, or a 3-part, or an hour course it was going to be. And after the first one, I realized there's no way you can pack all that knowledge into an hour. And it's evolved and it's grown. I've got a business mentor in a group that I work with who's helped me grow it and helped me see the other things I can do. I've started a couple of courses, Your Farm, Your Way, which is basically helping people figure out how to have their farm and their life and their family and get the balance going and make it work for them rather than working for the farm all the time. You'll know yourself, speaking to women all over the world farming, that a lot complain about the fact that their partners or husbands or fathers, whoever it is, are tied on the farm and they never see them. They never get a holiday. They never get a break. They never do anything with the kids. And I think it's a choice that we can make to say, I don't want that, and I want something different. And that's somewhere I've come through. I don't have a partner. I'm single, but I've actively built the life I want on the farm. I've changed breeds. I've changed the way I do things over the last sort of 10 years. And I joke saying I'm living the dream, but I am actually living the dream here. I don't work very hard. I pretty much take it easy, chill out, do a bit of laptop work, potter around outside, and I'm making a living at it. It's great. And I get to sit and talk to people, and I love talking. 90% of the time I'm in a nice top, but I've got my jammies on the bottom. My pajama bottoms on, I'm in my slippers. So getting paid to do that just feels like a con, really, in a way, but it's good. It is good. I enjoy it. And it is growing quite rapidly, the business. The online site, I wrote a lambing journal for people recording sheep information in, that grew out of a ladies group on Facebook with people asking, they wanted something for 40 or 50 sheep, not something for 1,000 sheep. So I wrote one and asked in a group what to do, and I've sold, I think, about 600 or 700 of them online. They've gone all over the world now. It's weird to think it's come from here, but it's good.
It's interesting too to be at a size scale, because we also raise sheep and we have 40 some ewes, so we're right in that same space. And a lot of the push, at least in the States, is very high tech, and will you just make spreadsheets and use the special app and put it all on your iPad? And I'm like, well, but we don't have enough sheep to buy an iPad for the sheep. I am not going to sacrifice my iPad to the sheep, because I know what happens with sheep and I know what my hands look like during lambing, and there's no screen covering case in the world that's going to hold up to that much goo. And so then your other option is writing it on a sheet of paper and hoping for the best, or writing it on your arm, or my husband and I send a lot of text messages that just say 25012 1R 1 1F 1E, whatever. And it's not a great record keeping system, so it is nice to see things that are in between.
I think I've noticed, I've written a cattle keepers one, a goat keepers, and a pig keepers one. I think the smaller farmer is, it's a area that's being missed. Everybody's going bigger and creating things for bigger people, but they're missing out on the smaller farmers. And there's a lot of us out there. There's probably more of us than there are big farmers out there as well. I mean, I have like Herd Watch is an app we use here, and I have it for the sheep, and I do use it. But 90% of the time, it's a pen and a bit of paper. And I've got a big whiteboard out in the shed that I write on. And I'm the same. I text myself. I use WhatsApp, and I I send myself voice notes in WhatsApp quite often as well, because it's easy to find and easy to remember. So low tech for me works quite well here as well.
So what is your particular background when it comes to agriculture? Did you grow up in the ag community, or did you come to it later in life?
I grew up on the farm I'm on the croft I'm on. I'm still living in the house I was raised. I'm still sleeping in the bedroom I was raised in, actually. But I've travelled. I lived Canada, America, New Zealand, Australia. Well, I visited America, I didn't live there, stayed there a couple of times with my uncle. So I've worked in England, I've worked all over. I kind of went away. I worked in a call centre at one point locally here, which was as awful as it sounded. It really wasn't great, but it was a job. I did a lot of bar work, a lot of waitressing and that. Because being on a croft, it's traditional that you have an outside income. It's, there's a crofting, because it's all, majority of crofts are small, although they can be massive as well. But traditionally they're small. So you always have that outside income. And I'd been brought up with the fact that you needed to have it. The whole mentality is, I'm too small to make a living, I'm too wee, I'm too little, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I think that's something I'm trying to challenge now, is that yes, we're small, but we have power. There's great power in being small and where we can sell to. So yeah, my mum and dad bought this farm. My mum's a farmer, not my dad. My dad's townie. Dad was merchant navy. He travelled all over the world with the merchant navy. Mum worked the farm here, the croft here. She grew up on a farm. My mum was in National Farmers Union. She was on Scottish national committees. She was up and down to Edinburgh. She was on the Red Deer Commission, lots of things like that. So I grew up with a lot of women in farming that were really good and really into it. And it wasn't ever a question that I couldn't do it. I didn't know if I wanted to start off with. I really didn't know if I wanted to. And I don't think I ever actually made the decision that I was going to be a crofter or a farmer. It just kind of happened. And I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'll figure it out when I finally grow up.
Same, yeah. Who knows? There's too many options out there. So when did you make the switch from that feeling, or the reality of having to have another job, to being able to be on the croft full time?
It started in 2012. I'd been over in New Zealand. I was on the Scottish shearing team at the Golden Shears, the World Shearing Championships. I was a wool handler, represented Scotland. I think it was about 15th in the world. I came firmly in the middle, didn't expect to go higher, quite happy I didn't go lower, but it wouldn't have surprised me had I come last, and I wouldn't have been worried about it had I done last. I came home via Australia, stopped in to see some friends in Western Australia, and I picked up a bug called Q fever, which is very similar to Lyme disease. I don't know if you guys have heard of Lyme over with you. Very similar to it, went chronic in it. I came home and I got sick, and I was sicker and sicker and never got better, basically. So the change of everything and the change of what I had to do wasn't through choice initially. It was, I couldn't work, I couldn't leave the house, I had no income, so I had to stop working. Then I went through various different things. I did some MLM job, multi-level marketing jobs, because that's what I could do from home. I did crafts. Me and mum did crafters. My mum had always done crafters. She was embroidery. She did beautiful hand embroidery and knitting. And I did some knitting and crochet and stuff for selling. And I did lots of different things like that. I did a bit of bookkeeping as well. I did a bookkeeping course for a while. And I think the bookkeeping course gradually showed me that I wasn't doing very well on the farm, basically. I was making a huge loss every year. And I fell into doing beef lamb boxes, and I kind of thought I quite like this. And then gradually over time, bit by bit, it all changed. Like when you listen to anybody on podcasts who have done a big change away from conventional farming to regenerative agriculture or something, there's that one big moment that they've kind of been forced into doing it, whether it's illness, loss of job, bad weather, family illness, or something. And that's what kind of pushed me into it. I didn't realise it had a name or anything for a long time. And a lot of people thought it was a bit nuts, basically, a bit insane. But it's working for me. I love it. I love the way I'm doing it now. I'm happy with it. I went to a meeting one night locally with a New Zealand guy called Doug Avery. I don't know if you've come across him. He talks about he's a resilient farmer. He wrote a book. He'd had problems, mental health problems. He had he's well worth speaking to. He's amazing. Doug's really good, and he was local. He was here, and it was a night out. You got your dinner, and it was a night out basically. So that's why I went. Don't even know if I had Will. I don't think I even had William at that point. And listening to him, it kind of one of the things he said was work smarter, not harder. That's what he lives by, and it just clicked with me. And from that point on, I was like, right, is my decision, is this going to make me work harder, or is it going to make me work smarter? And if it was work harder, that decision went. It didn't happen. If it was work smarter and going to make my life easier, it stayed. And that's my main sort of focal point for things now. I want a simple life, basically. So, yeah, and it was an evolution of where I wanted to be, basically, I think. And it's only probably in this last 4 years that I've really become clear on what I want to do. And it's still changing. It's always changing what I want to do. So
I think one of the really nice parts about being a smallholder, and people thinking you're insane, is that you can do what you want. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is whatever you're doing won't work. Everyone else will be proven right, and then they extend you some amount of grace usually because they feel bad that you're such an idiot. Or you're right and whatever you're doing works, and then you get that little burst of, I know what I'm doing, even if they think I'm an idiot. They may still think you're an idiot, but at least you're right about it. And just the flexibility to pivot if something isn't working, or if you're doing something, even if it is working and you hate doing it. If you have 10,000 hogs, getting out of hogs is a lot harder than if you have 5. Getting out of 5 pigs is pretty
mm-hmm.
easy,
Mm-hmm.
where getting out of 10,000 is not. And, just being able to balance your own life and being able to do what you want, which I think is kind of the point for a lot of farmers, is doing what you want.
Yeah, I agree. As I say, there's that power in being small, I think. And our power is to be able to change easily, to adapt easily as well. Like you say, right now, in the UK, and I don't know what it's like with you guys, but I'm assuming it's pretty much the same. Cattle prices are through the roof, but corn this year has gone down, really gone down. There's a lot of barley prices, especially further south, not up with us here in the UK. We've had droughts, and up with us, we've been okay. We've got folk combining recently that were taking it off at 14% moisture. Just doesn't happen up here very often. So it proves how dry even up here it's been. But feed prices is just bottomed out just now. There's a lot of folk going to be making a big loss. And as you say, if you're a grain merchant in East Anglia with 10,000 hectares planted to crop, it's a big change to get out of that compared to if you're a crofter in Caithness with 3 or 4 acres. So there's definitely that power in being smaller as well. And I think worldwide, it's something that this get bigger, multinational companies, multi-farms and all that. It's common. It is what's happening. But I think, and there's a lot of people scared that it's going to stop all the smaller farmers, but I think we just need to adapt and change and look at ourselves differently is where it is. We're not too little. We're not too wee. We're not too stupid or any of that. We're pretty good, most of us, I think.
Well, and I think too, if your size allows you to be more independent and more self-sufficient, around here a fair number of folks buy in feeder calves. And when you're buying at, I mean, we're seeing 375 a hundredweight. And if you normally buy it, 115 a hundredweight, and now they're 375, that tends to really impact what you're doing. Where if you're making your own calves, and you can be selling them at 375 instead of buying them at 375, it might hurt in the years that they're 115, but if you can move them as beef, then so much the better. We're just the bigger you are and the more dependent you are for buying feed or buying animals or whatever. At least this is my justification for why we're smaller. So,
I think you're more market driven when you're big. You have to be, because you're buying in quantities, you're selling in quantities, you're buying. I've friends here that buy weaned calves and fatten them, but he's selling on contract, so he doesn't have any choice, or he's selling to the big abattoirs and that, and he's driven by what they say. Whereas here, I'm driven by what my customers say and how much. There's an element of the market in it, because obviously at the moment, with cattle prices being really high, I have put my boxes up a little bit, but I haven't gone super high because I don't need to, because I know that I'm still making a good profit that I'm happy with. But in 5 or 10 years' time, if that, how they say it's up horn, down corn, they always say, and it always pivots and it swaps every so often. In a few years or 10 years or whatever, it's going to swap again. My price is set and I don't need to worry about the market then. If the lamb market bottoms out here and my ewe lambs aren't going to sell very well, I've got the customer base that I just need to promote a little bit harder and a wee bit more, and I can sell them as boxes.
well, I think it helps too when you're raising things that you can eat if you have to, the number of folks even in Iowa who don't understand that we grow, millions and millions of acres of corn and none of it is for humans. I mean, maybe corn syrup, but it's not sweet corn. You're not going to go out there and just cook it up and eat it, and that really limits what you can do with it. Plus, you have to be able to move, millions of bushels instead of a little bit that you can throw in your granary till next year if you have to, or feed it to your cows or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we eat all our own beef and lamb. I don't buy any beef at the supermarket anymore. We don't buy eggs when we don't have them. We normally eat quite a lot of eggs, but as I say, the fox visited and we don't have enough eggs. We've got new pullets, but they've not started laying yet. We buy milk from a local organic dairy from their vending machine. I'm trying to be. We have a polythene tunnel. We had a polytunnel, should I say? It blew away recently. So we had all our own tomatoes and cucumbers. I had cucumbers and courgettes just coming out of my ears, and I was preserving. I was getting everything stacked away. It's kind of like the whole homestead thing. Those homestead women you see on TikTok and that. That was me. Not canning. I don't understand canning. It's not a UK thing, but freezing, baking stuff, giving it to friends. And then the polytunnel blew away, so we lost all of that, which my sweet corn was nearly ready. Speaking of corn, I'd got about 60 ears of sweet corn. We got 2 out of it, and it's just, I did cry that day because it was heartbreaking when the wind, midsummer storm, and it came southeast and it just whipped the cover straight off. But we try to be as self-sufficient here as possible, and down to even including electricity. We've got a turbine. I'm looking at solar panels. I would like a battery storage, but that all costs. And I'm just trying to build a system up bit by bit because I want to be self-sufficient here. More so because I don't like spending money. I don't want to give somebody else all my money. I want to go on holidays. I don't want to give it to the local supermarket.
So you were on the BBC This Farming Life, which, although I don't get it here in Canada, I should subscribe to Acorn just so I can just so I can see that show. But you ended up on the Scotland version of that show, right? How did that happen? Because that in the farming community is like pretty famous.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Like it was. This Farming Life is made by BBC Scotland and it's shown all over the UK and the world. There's various, I can't remember what all it is, but it's shown. I've had people contact me from Mexico, Canada, America, Australia, all over the world. It's mind blowing how big it is. Basically, we were in series 7. There's roughly 5 families per series that they feature. There's usually maybe 1 or 2 families on it that have been recommended by other people, by word of mouth, things like that. And then there's an application process. So I applied for it. I'd actually emailed 2 years ago because I'd saw it and nothing came back. I never got an email back, never got a reply. It was probably too late. But when I applied this time, I'd been down at my business mentor at Joanna Hunter's at a retreat. I try to do things like that quite often to get away from home and just get different outside perspective on things sometimes. Came back all empowered and raring to go and I can do anything, that kind of feeling. I mean,
The to-do lists were coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, I can do anything at all. I'm amazing type thing. And jumped onto Facebook. I'm a total Facebook addict. I'll hold my hands up to that one. I need to go to Facebook's anonymous, I think, to get away from my addiction. But anyway, came home and the first post that came up in a farming group was Emma Burns asking for applications for this year. They were looking for new farming families. And I was like, I could do that. Fired off an email on my phone. And she messaged me the next day and she's like, oh, you were one of the first to reply. And I was like, okay, cool. And we chatted back and forth by email. Then she phoned me and we went through various application stages. And finally we get down to like the final 10. And she's like, well, we got down to about the final 20, I think it was. So I then had to tell my dad because I hadn't actually told him. And my dad lives here. I don't know who lives with who because technically it was mum and dad's house, but technically it's mine now. So don't really know. We live together. So I had to tell him and he was like, no way. I ain't doing that. I am not interested at all. I'm like, that's okay. I'm doing it.
Right. You can hide in the house.
Yeah, you can stay in the background. You don't have to speak. You don't have to be filmed, but I want to do this. He mumped and moaned. And then we had to do a Zoom interview. So the first one was just me and Emma, and she came back to me. She's like, right, the producers are wanting to see your dad and William as well. I told Dad, and he's like, I'm not doing it. No way, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, well, sit down and listen. You don't have to say anything. And he sat down. And after 5 minutes, I don't think I could get a word in edgeways with Dad talking to me.
Yeah. He needed to tell them all his knowledge.
Yeah. So then we had a day filming here. And just between Christmas and New Year, we kind of got the call to say that we'd been picked as one of the 5 families. No, just before Christmas it was. And then we had all the phone calls over Christmas and New Year with producers, execs, legal team, all of this. There's so much goes into it. Then the cameraman, because we've got our team that came to us, and it's Mark and one other and a runner, one camera director and one runner, and that's it.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if it was, dozens of people traipsing around the farm or, oh, that's neat that they can do it on such a intimate scale. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to know them really well as well. I mean, Mark's standing there asking you your deepest inner thoughts on everything. So you do get to know them very well. They're here. What they try to do is they film from January to October, and they try to do 1 day a week at each farm. But because we're so far north, we're like 5 hours north of Glasgow, 6 hours north of Glasgow, actually. What they do is they come up for 3 days every 3 weeks. So they come up 3 or 4 days every month. So they're here with you for quite a very full on few days.
So they're filming for most of the productive year, right? Like they start in the spring through the fall. And then when does the show actually air then? I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of production time then.
Well, what they do is they try to do there's 12 episodes and each episode covers 3 weeks roughly. So they're starting into the editing straight away. But they started filming, it was mid-January they started filming. You don't really get to meet any of the other farms that are on it, but I actually knew one because they were from this area. And just the way it had worked out when Emma was up doing our filming, I'd said to her, oh, where have you been recently? Being nosy and wanting to find out. And she's like, oh, I was down at Newborough. And I was like, oh, you weren't at Andrew and Jojo's, were you? Because that's the only people I know in Newborough. She was like, yes, how did you know that? And I was like, well, they actually lived over here. They were not far away from me. I grew up knowing Andrew because we were young farmers at the same time.
Podcasts are free to listen to, but they aren't free to create. Caite and I would appreciate your support as we work to build the Barnyard Language community.
Patreon is an easy way for you to make a contribution that goes directly to making the show. As a member of our Patreon community, you get to watch the video version of our weekly updates, complete with questionable hairstyles and clutter. With 3 levels of support, you can choose a tier that works for you.
Keep the podcast going by becoming a patron today at patreon.com/barnyardlanguage. So that was this year?
No, we started 2024 we filmed. So I applied 2023, October 2023, and it aired January 2025. So it's a big scope of your life. And then it's 12 weeks, but it was on iPlayer. So it was available to stream straight away. So it kind of changed it a little bit.
Right, because people could binge the whole year versus rolling it out.
3 o'clock in the morning, I was on my phone, skipping through, going, nope, nope, that's not me, that's not, oh, that's me, let's see. Because I have no say over what they're going to do or how they're going to edit it. So it's quite a concern. I lost a bit of sleep that couple of weeks before it aired, just going, have I done the right thing? What the hell have I done with my life? Why did I do this? And I just binged it all just to see. And I 3 o'clock that morning, I crashed out properly, and I was like, no, that's good. They haven't done a dirty on us. They've been very good. So it's quite a well thought of program. They really show the truth of farming. It's not cleaned up. It's not made for the general public. It's actually what happens on farms. Like, we had a rough year. It was probably the worst lambing calving I've ever had. Worst weather, because it rained all of last year, basically. Andrew and Joe, I mean, they lost 100 lambs, basically, almost in one night. It was, and they showed that. And they showed how upsetting it was for Joe as well, and for Andy as well. It's, and for the other folk as well, like Holly and Nick that had easy cares, they had a really bad lambing too, and just showed how hard it is for us. So, but they showed the nice stuff too as well.
Yeah. It's really neat to have a program like that with such good exposure that shows the reality and doesn't soften it, but also can show all aspects of it, the humanity of it too, right? And the caring side of what farmers are doing. Did you get to do any like a red carpet? Were you and your dad and William get to dress up?
No, we went down to Glasgow. We got down for the wrap party. So we drove down from here in the morning, had one night in a hotel, and then drove home the next day. So it was we stopped in Perth to see my dad's aunt, but it was good because we got to see all the families. We got to meet everybody else. There was free food. There was free red wine. I forgot to eat, and I had a very bad hangover, and Dad had to drive home, basically. Dad took William to bed. It was quite good because Andy's mum and dad were there, Ian and Joan, and my dad knew them very well through, my mum was on NFU with Ian, with Andrew's dad. So Dad had somebody to speak to as well that he knew. We got to meet the other families, as I say, and it was and we got to catch up with a crew that we hadn't seen. But some of them we'd never met. So it was really quite surreal that you're speaking to somebody and they know everything about you and your business. And I'm like, I can't even remember what your name was. You just told me. So it's a bit freaky. It took a while afterwards as well. I get recognised in places. And that's taken a bit to get used to. Like, I was at a music festival at the weekend and these younger guys all came up wanting photos. Like, oh, you're Sally off the telly. And I'm like, can I get a photo? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I love it, really. I love it. I shouldn't say that, but my ego loves it. It's ace.
So in the end, does your dad enjoy the little bit of fame and exposure that came along, even though he was not inclined to do it in the first place?
Oh, he loves it. He loves it. He'd come home from Tesco's and I'm like, they recognise me. Tesco's our local supermarket. It's like, they recognise me. This lady came up and spoke to me. William doesn't like it. William's not keen on it. He finds it a bit harder. And he's 5. It's a lot to deal with for a 5-year-old. So I try to kind of keep him a little bit away from that side of things a wee bit. It does happen that people recognise us. Like in a swimming pool south, somebody came up and spoke to me. William's sort of splashing. He can't swim very well. He's splashing around. I'm in my swimming costume, sort of. How do you stand when you're in a swimming costume and a guy's standing talking to you about how he loved you on the telly? It's very exposing. But yeah, I'm getting used to it now. So
That is a really neat experience.
I enjoyed it. I loved it, actually. I really loved the film. I'd do it again tomorrow if they asked me. They haven't, but I would.
Have you tried using your fame for any clout, or is that a show called The Farming Life doesn't sound like it really lends itself to a lot of like name dropping?
There's a bit of I've been asked to do a lot more things than I would before. Locally, I'm doing the rounds of the WRIs and the gardening clubs, talking at them, which is good fun. I get my tea and cakes. Quite often get meringues at them, so give me a free feed, I'll go anywhere type thing. I've been asked I'm hosting a couple of courses here that's come off the back of that with like productive farming, productive crofting type things. I've been asked to speak at the Scottish Crofters Federation annual gathering, the AGM in Inverness. I'm actually sharing a 4-panel thing with Jim Fairley's, who's our agricultural minister, talking about abattoir provision, because small abattoirs closing is quite a big problem. And I forgot. I got asked to the Castle of May to meet the king, which was pretty cool. That was quite, yeah. So I had to get a bit dressed up for it. That was a couple of weeks ago. I took my aunt with me. We had a great night.
Did you have to practice your curtsy?
I didn't curtsy.
Okay.
I forgot.
Oh dear.
I forgot. I shook his hand. Well, I kind of forgot, but I kind of didn't, because I don't bend the knee to like cleaners or shopkeepers or anything. So he's just a man like anybody else. So I didn't. I don't think it bothers him if people don't curtsy or that, you know. We actually ended up speaking for about 10-15 minutes about farming. It was a farming night, because he owns the castle, or the trust owns the Castle of May up here, which was the Queen Mother's home. She bought it in 1952 and did it all up, and it was passed to the Castle of May Trust, and King Charles was the chairman of it at that point, and he still visits for 2 weeks every year, because he loves it up here basically, and he does a lot of good locally. But he has a farming night every year where a lot of local farmers are invited along to talk about farming stuff. So I ended up talking to him about abattoir provision and pasture-based cattle and native breeds and things like that, which he's very, very, very knowledgeable about, really knowledgeable about lots. And he actually used to breed Irish Moyle cattle as well. So we had a good chat about them as well. So
that's a pretty cool experience right there.
Yeah. I didn't have anything like previous people that's been on it's had a bit more like been asked to be in papers and stuff like that, and a couple of the farmers or the families off of this have done it. I haven't been, probably because of where we live. We're a bit far north, but it's a knock on. Like I've had 4 podcasts in the last couple of weeks, locally, nationally, and now internationally, which is pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. We're in the same Facebook group, Sally and I, so that's how we ended up connecting on the Facebook addiction. I'm in there too.
Yeah, I'm in so many of them. There's some really good Facebook groups. There's a Ladies Who Lamb one, Katie. You'd like it. It's really good.
Yeah, but then I'd have to get back on Facebook.
Oh, you're off. Okay, fair enough.
I'm predominantly off. I am. But I feel like as a small farmer that really the level of fame, and it means that you get to meet the king and talk about killing cattle with him, and then people give you free cake, is really like, that is the perfect level of fame right there.
Yeah, not too much travel, so you don't have to, worry too much about farm sitters or any of that kind of stuff. And
A little bit of red carpet leg shaving situation, and then free cake. Like, that feels good.
Well, I didn't even, best bit was I didn't even have to shave the legs when I went to see the king, because I wore trousers and a tweed top. I looked it up, and it's because it's classed as a cocktail party, women can wear trousers. And I was like, do you know what? I just had an ankle operation. My ankle was still a bit dodgy. I was having to wear a brace. I have a brace on the other one. I wouldn't be comfortable in a dress. So I was like, right, I'm wearing trousers. So I wore trousers and a top, a tweed jacket. Very nice, very posh. But I felt so comfortable. It was so easy. I didn't feel all tarted up and uncomfortable as I would have done in a dress. And I probably had a better talk with them, better yarn with them, because I felt so comfortable. So I'm me. I've got to that stage in my life now. I'm creeping up to 50. Do you know what? I'm just me. I'm nobody else. I'm not going to try to adapt for everybody else. I want to be comfortable, because I'm fully perimenopausal and I sweat at the slightest drop of a hat. So it's just like, no, I'm me, and that's who I'm going to be, and that's what I'm doing nowadays. So it's a good stage of life to be at.
it is a good stage, minus the sweating part. Yeah. We're
I found the other night a note I had left myself before an ag conference that I was really uncomfortable about, and I was, getting an award or whatever. And I had written myself a note that said they asked me to be here. And I'm like, so at this point, it's on them. If they don't know who I am and what I'm like, that's their fault. And if they do know who I am and what I'm like, they're okay with what they're going to get. And, there's not a lot of point for me to try to fit into some box that I'm not going to fit in anyway.
No, I've given up on that carry on. It's not worth it. Life is short. We're not here for a long time. We need to be comfortable, be ourselves, and enjoy it. And that's, I know a lot of people struggle with it, and I know a lot of people have a huge amount of anxiety around it. And I think I'm quite lucky that I don't. You know, I don't worry about things like I'll quite happily stand up and speak in front of two folk, and as easily speak in front of you guys as I would speak in front of a couple of thousand folk. You know, it doesn't bother me. I enjoy it. I'm a little bit of a show off, you know. I'll take that now. I'll admit to that one now. Um, but yeah, being who you are and what you want to be, and not really caring if they don't like you, then it's worthwhile, I think.
There's a lot of power in getting to an age and a stage in life where you just don't really give a shit what people think. There's just a lot, a lot there.
Have you seen that lady? Oh, she's on Facebook and TikTok, I think. The We Do Not Care Club.
Oh yes, she's delightful.
Yes, I love her. It's like I'm actually speaking on Farm Strong Scotland, which is kind of based off a New Zealand thing again for mental health and farming, how to build resilience and things. It's more about, yes, they have kind of counselling services there, but it's things you can actively do to improve your life. One of the things they're doing is talking about menopause and perimenopause and women in farming just now. So they'd put a call out, do we have anybody who would speak? I was like, yes, I'll do that. So I had a part of a recording of it the other day. And I talk about my moustache, because obviously I was at one point dark hair. I'm now grey. But I mean, I've always had a bit of a hairy face. But the good thing about menopause is that as you get older, the moustache disappears because it slips and it lands on your chin, and you end up with chin hair and a beard and stuff. And I'm actually talking about that, and it's going to be all over Facebook. I'm like, yay me, shut up, Sally, stop your mouth occasionally, you know.
Let's record this for posterity.
I feel like, though, the first time in my tender youth when I encountered someone on the internet who mentioned the car tweezers for chin hair, and I was so horrified because I was probably 24, and I was like, oh my god, like, not only do you have chin hair, but you found a good solution and you're talking about it where people can hear you, and now everyone's gonna know that you have chin hair. And now I'm on our podcast being like, there's a little drawer in my car that I'm pretty sure is there for tweezers. Like, this is a great design. And just realizing that, like, if the most horrifying thing I'm doing online is talking about my chin hair, I'm already ahead of like 90% of people on social media. So, yeah, I feel okay about that.
Yeah, I'm good. It affects 50% of the population, and we all have the chin here, if we talk about it or not. We all have the issues.
Well, I guess, I mean, if we're talking about chin hair, 100% of the population, because, I mean, guys, I suppose it's more intentional sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, they want it. We don't. You know, sometimes they do the Movember here. Sometimes, a few years ago, there was a big thing here. A few years ago, they do Movember, and all the sports clubs, the lads try to grow moustaches or beards and all that. And I remember a friend's son trying to do it, and bless him, he had about 3 hairs. And it's like, do you know what? If I'd actually not waxed that month, I could have bet him easily.
Yeah, the before and after shots. Yeah.
Yeah, he was only about 17. It probably would have humiliated him for life, the poor lad, you know.
So I think I'm going to transition us into the parenting side of our podcast, because this is where we usually get into some more of the good stuff. So you are a single mom by choice. And I was wondering about, I guess, kind of the steps along the way to making that choice and how you made that a reality for you and to create your family.
Yeah. Basically, it boils down to I was 39, single, and I was newly single-ish. I don't know how we would describe it. It was one of those ones. And I came up to 39. I was creeping up to my 40th birthday, about 3 or 4 months shy of it. And I was like, do you know what? If I want a kid, I'm going to have to do it. I'm getting old. TikTok, the whole biological clock was ticking. And I just sort of went, yeah, I do want to do this. I want to at least try. And if it doesn't work, then I can say I've tried. If it does, I'll have a kid. If it doesn't, fair enough. So I had a referral to a fertility clinic down in Aberdeen, about 5 hours away from here, because that's the nearest one, and was down within a month to 6 weeks. I was there. Private, I had to pay for it privately. It doesn't cover, we have NHS, wasn't covered by that as a single woman. obviously. So I went in and found out what I had to do. I had to go and buy some sperm online.
All the things you can buy on the internet, right? I mean, farmers are used to that, I suppose. Picking out sperm.
Yeah, it was through a fertility clinic. And do you know, it's the same thing. It's you buy a straw, you buy so many straws, so many motility. You look at online, you pick the attributes you want. So I kind of approached, and I say this to some of my friends, and they're like, oh my God, they're horrified. But I approached it as if I was buying a bull for me. What did I want? We're not very tall. I'm 5'7", my dad's 5'8" ish, but we could do a bit more height. So I went for a tall guy. I went for same hair, same colour hair, same eyes that matched in with most of our family because you don't want them to feel totally different to everybody else. Found the one I wanted and I bought it. And then we had to do IUI, which is basically like AI. It's that you take the drugs, they super ovulate. Well, you don't super ovulate, they just get you fertile. And you take the Clomid. Oh, Clomid is awful. It's a horrible drug. It gives you the Clomid rage. Yeah, which is similar to perimenopause.
Sally, I dealt with infertility, and after I think the second round of Clomid, I went back to the fertility clinic and I said, I'll be divorced before I get pregnant if you don't find something else. And I was able to switch meds and had 2 kids, but
Clomid's not fun, is it? It was different.
oh my god. And I know people who are totally fine on it, but it's either like it's totally fine and you get knocked up immediately, or you're basically the Hulk. There's no in between.
The bitch from hell, was basically how my best friend described me afterwards. Not at the time, obviously, because she would have died.
She was afraid. Yeah.
She's not stupid.
No, exactly. But I had to have 3 rounds of IUI because that's just a standard procedure, and then you moved into IVF. Thankfully, it worked the first time. The first cycle, I produced a lot of eggs, a lot of embryos that were suitable. They do one thing that I questioned at the time, because I've done embryo transfer in sheep years ago. When you do the donor, she's flushed to produce eggs, but her body's not primed to accept eggs. So you never implant back into the donor. You always leave her a cycle and do her naturally after it. But with humans, they super ovulate you and do you, and then they stick a fresh one back in straight away. And I think the vast majority of them fail. So you're setting the patient up for failure because your body's primed to produce, it's not primed to accept. So then I had 3 months off and I had a frozen cycle. This is over like 19 months by this point.
And lots of trips south.
South twice a month. Thankfully, my best friend Lorna, she's not far away. She's about an hour away from Aberdeen, so I was able to go down and stay with them, which was great, having somebody down there to stay with and just somebody to talk to as well about it, as well. She was with me the whole way through it. And then all through pregnancy. I had a rotten pregnancy. I had hyperemesis gravidarum, basically where you throw up from morning you throw up 24/7 basically. So it was pretty awful. I stopped throwing up when I delivered the placenta. It was that bad. It was 9 months. I lost like 2.5 stone. So I don't know in kilos, a lot of weight basically. 28 pounds, whatever that is, nearly 30 pounds actually. I was in size UK size 16 when I got pregnant, and when I came out of hospital I was in a size 14. No, but he's a cool kid. Best thing I've ever done. Glad I did it. And in a way, a lot of people, it must be so hard being a single mum. And I'm like, but I'm a single mum by myself. I'm not a single mum because I have an ex or whatever around that causes 90% of the issues, I think, or even a married one that causes a lot of the issues as well for a lot of friends. I can make my decisions and it's me, and that's it. It's me and William. I know that. I know I'm fully responsible for his future. I'm fully responsible for his present. I have to have the money. I have to have everything falls on me, which is a great motivation on the farm to get it going a bit better and get the business online stuff going as well, but kind of focuses your mind on what's more important. I think the little stuff doesn't become so important then. You're able to let it. William was born on my 42nd birthday, which is pretty cool as well. But I'm an older mum as well. So I think you just don't care quite so much about the little stuff that you worry about. It's you just kind of the day-to-day stuff, you let it rumble on and he'll come out of it. So
I know, Sally, my kids are 7 and 8, and I'll be 45 in May, so I'm a little bit younger than you. But being an older mom, I mean, I would not have been even a half-ass decent mother in my 20s. I would have been so bad at it. And yeah, I just don't give a shit. I do what's best for my kids, I do what's best for my family, and then I try to not screw up too badly on everything else. And that's it, you know? And it is so freeing to just be able to hell with the rest of you. Did you ever consider having more than one kid, or was that a pretty one and done?
at the start, yeah, I wanted more, definitely wanted more. When it was first starting, I wanted two, and that was it. And when I had the IVF, I had 8 embryos, grade A embryos. So I had quite a lot, really good ones. Excuse me. And yeah, I wanted more. And plan was to have sort of 8 months to a year and have another one. Little did I know. But because I was so sick, it put me off entirely. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I really was very sick. I was sleeping like 17 hours a day, almost as bad as I was when I was really bad with acute fever. And yeah, it was a process to go through to get to accepting that I was one and done. And you have the whole worry that, are you going to screw them up because they're a single child? Are they going to end up a complete spoiled little brat? And is he going to miss not having a brother or sister? But now, yeah, no way. I couldn't have another one. I absolutely loved the baby stage as well. Absolutely. I thrived on the baby stage. It just was perfect for me. But like you say, Katie, I think if I'd had a kid in the 20s, I was too selfish. I'd have been an absolute terrible mother and would have a completely screwed up teenager or 20-year-old now that I would have to deal with. And yeah, by waiting, I haven't missed anything. I don't feel that I'm giving up my life for my kids. He is my life just now. He is my life, just not in a way that he's everything. I don't put everything, I don't focus entirely on him. I do loads of other stuff. But I'm more than happy to not go out. I'm more than happy to not worry about what I'm doing. If we can go and hang out and go walk up the road at night, great. I prefer that to going out on a drink these days. It's your priorities change.
So have you and your dad been living together for this whole stage, and how has he adjusted to being what's his title? Is he grandpa or is he
Granddad. He's granddad.
granddad? Yeah, how is granddad adjusting to his new role?
Well, I hadn't properly moved out ever because I couldn't afford to when I took the croft on, and I'd been away and back. I'd go off to Australia for 6 months. They'd look after, mum and dad look after my cattle in the winter, and then I'd come back jolly around here for a while and disappear off again. Then I got sick and I stayed at home. But in about 2 years, or about a year, 2 years after I got sick, my mum had a massive brain tumor. So she ended up in hospital in Aberdeen again, and she was like a year between, or 18 months between hospital and a care home, having to learn to walk and talk. It was it was like a third of a brain space type thing. We nearly lost her, and it came on suddenly. There'd been no signs or anything. Ironically, she ended up back in the ward that she'd worked in before she took over the farm. She was a neurosurgeon nurse, so she ended up back in that ward. So when she came home, wasn't fit to move out, but then dad kind of needed me at home to look after mum a bit. Neither one of us would have coped of it on our own. So we kind of fell into a routine, and I just stayed here. And then when I thought I was going to try to have a baby, I basically went through and says, I'm going to have IVF. I'm wanting to have a kid by myself. But dad's like, I'm moving out. I'm like, cool, do it. Whatever. I'm wanting a kid. I'm doing it. Hummed and hawed a lot, but he was very, very supportive, but he doesn't like change, my dad. He really doesn't like change much. And then when I was pregnant, I had to deliver in Inverness, which is like 110 miles south of here, because our maternity unit, just no baby, a big thing. The last 10 years, there's been no babies delivered up here, hardly. They closed it. So I think there was like 15 out of 300 kids delivered in locally. So if you're older or whatever, any excuse, they put you south. My waters broke in the middle of the night and I had to go south. So I drove down. Dad came with me so he could take the car back, but I drove down because I'd just been sick as a passenger. And he came home and fed the cows. So we got down at like 2 o'clock in the morning. He got home at 5 and fed the cows and went to bed. And then the day after I delivered, he was down with mum, took mum down, and then he was back. He was down about 4 times because he was in hospital for a week because William had jaundice. So he was in Skaboo for about a week. We got home on Christmas Day, and Dad drove down on Christmas Day to pick us both up and basically came in the house and he got William, and that was about it. I very rarely got him back. They're best mates. They love each other. They drive each other nuts, but they love each other deeply. He's a very hands-on granddad. He's done the school run today because I was doing other stuff. So he did the school run today. He baths him. Granddad's better at giving him baths than me, seemingly, because he plays better and I don't play very well. He doesn't do disciplining very well, but it kind of bites him on the ass, that one, because he lives here. So it's like you're gurning about him doing something, but you're letting him away with it. You kind of have to say no as well. So, but no is not a grandparent word, seemingly. So
Right, yeah, he wants to be the friend instead of the
yeah, they're great mates. They are good friends. They do get on very, very well.
that is
So
really
it's
nice.
good. Yeah, and he's my mum as well. She's now in a care home. She has dementia. Um, so she was here when William was little. She was here for the first couple of years. And they're good friends too. He comes in sort of once a week. I take him in to see mum. Trying to find a balance on that one because he's still little and he needs to have his own life rather than going and seeing mum in a care home, an old lady in a care home who's a bit dawdled. It's a hard one to find the balance on that one.
Yeah, it's tricky, especially if it's someone who he can interact well with, then that's a different, scenario, right? Like, is she at the stage where she knows who he is or knows who you are? Or, yeah.
But she still knows us all. It's hard to say because she was in hospital. She broke her ankle. We actually think she broke it a day before we realised because she was walking around on it. And she's quite stubborn and tough. And she ended up in hospital for a year because we couldn't get a care home bed. And she went really badly down because of lack of stimulation in hospitals. They're not there for long-term care. They did their best, but she went really badly, badly downhill. But once she got into the care home, and that was when she got diagnosed with dementia, was when she was in hospital. But since she's been in the care home for 18 months, nearly 2 years now, she's leveled out. And we don't know what it is. She's got memory issues. Her mobility is really bad. That's why she's not at home. If her mobility was better, she could potentially have been at home. But excuse me, she's not going to make it home. But she still knows us all. She's aphasia, so she struggles with words and stuff, which she finds hard because mum was fantastic speaker. Mum could stand up and speak for 25 minutes, 30 minutes on real technical issues with no notes. She remembered it. She was amazing. So to struggle with words now is really cruel for her. I think she doesn't, I don't know if she really remembers how good she was, so it's a hard one.
Yeah, my dad had aphasia after a stroke, and he was, sat on lots of boards and was, really involved in a lot of different things that required, and it affected his reading as well as it often does. So yeah, it changes your life a lot when that part of your brain is affected.
Yeah, it's not a nice one. It's probably one of the cruelest things, I think, that they know what they want to say, but they just can't get it out. It's really quite horrid.
Yeah. So I feel like I kind of know the answer to this question from our conversation already, but how do you make the farm, off-farm work, childcare, the hypothetical balance that we're all looking for? How do you make that work for you being a sandwich generation?
I say no quite a lot, actually. I'm quite good at just saying this is my boundaries. This is when I'm working. That's when I'm not working. When I sort of set up the online stuff that I do, the lady Joanna Hunter that I work with, my mentor, she's very much about boundaries, about saying no, and about work-life balance. So I generally don't do weekend work. I don't do evening work. I do laptop stuff while William's at nursery, except for occasionally, like this timing wise is slightly different, but once a month I'll do an evening course and that's it. The farm is running itself, kind of. It's much as way we've got it set up. We've got it down to about an hour a day in the winter, a bit more lambing time, obviously. There's other times a year there's more, but generally it does itself. And I made the decision that I'm in a hugely privileged position that I'm going to be able to pick William up and drop him off to school every day. I don't need childcare. I've got dad at home for it if I need it. But there's not many in the position that I'm in to be able to do that. So I know I'm very lucky to be able to do it. But I made the decision to have him, so I'm going to enjoy him. And William comes first, and that's at the bottom of it. My time with William comes first. Our holidays they're written in sand. Basically, there's no getting rid of them. You know, they're the first thing that goes on our calendar every year. We have a couple of local holidays every year. Yeah, we just hang out quite a lot, basically. So it's I think it's just saying no to other people but saying yes to ourselves is what it is.
Sally, I know you mentioned, only children and how spoiled and horrible they can be. As an only child of a single mother,
That's a stereotype.
it's a horrible stereotype. I think it's incredibly unfair because it blames the child for what society puts on them, because the child did not choose to be an only child and is not raising themselves. But I think, especially since I've had kids, the realization that what matters is not who's married to who or who is related by blood to who, but having as many people who love your child and love your family as you can. That is the part that's important. And the rest of it is just legal shit, ultimately. It's not about that. And so trying to, realizing that my kids are short on aunts and uncles just because, my husband has one sister and I'm an only child. But we can fill that space with other people. There is some confusion now because my kids don't understand that not all of their aunties are actually my husband's siblings. So we're having to clarify that a little bit as to when I am referring to the person who is actually genetically related to my in-laws, most specifically because my in-laws live across the street, but just how much of your family is community.
Yeah, the Maori kind of way. I lived in New Zealand for a while, and they've all got aunties. You know, there's auntie this, auntie that, auntie the next one. An auntie could be somebody your mum worked with. You know, it's my best friend Lorna's auntie Lorna, my best mate Gail. There's Gail and Helga. They're auntie Gail and auntie Helga. He's got my brother, uncle, but he doesn't. He's only met him twice because we don't really speak that much, thanks to ex-sister-in-law. Um, there's my auntie Susie, who's my auntie, and my uncle Frank, who are my auntie and uncle, and they're very much involved in the life as well. My dad, so he's got a lot of people around him, and it is good. And I think the whole stereotypical, oh, they're spoiled. They're not spoiled. I think single kids. I read a thing recently that only children actually do better in the workplace and things like that because they're more used to actually just getting on and doing stuff themselves without having somebody there to back them up. So they just have to get on with it. So there's pros and cons for it all. I find summer holidays and things like that, I find those the hardest because he's still at that 5.5. I have to entertain him. Whereas if he'd got a sibling, I could open the door, put them both outside and say, go jump on the bales for an hour and use somebody to play with rather than me or dad having to go with him. My dad goes and he stands leaning on bales, straw bales or silage bales for hours while William runs along them and kills things and does whatever little boys do with sticks and stone. And Grandad's kind of going back that way as well to little boy with sticks and stones as well, So he's not spoilt for things, and he's spoilt for time. He's getting totally spoilt for time spent with him and on him. I am quite hard, and some people think I'm quite hard. Like the guy that I buy my silage or does my silage contracting and I buy my straw from, he was laughing because I said that I make William empty the dishwasher in the morning before school, and he's to set the table, and his pocket money he gets depending on what chores he does. And he's like, oh man, that's a bit rough on a poor kid. I'm like, listen, the first week he tried to make 15 quid. I had to put a cap on it at £10 a week. Otherwise, he was going to outwork me and make as much money as possible. It's like, he's got a responsibility. This house, we don't have chores in the house. We all live here. It's all our responsibility to look after it. This morning, getting out of bed for school, he didn't want to get up. And I'm like, that's okay. None of us want to get up in the morning to go to school, but you have to go to school, and it's your responsibility. It's my responsibility to get you up to put you to school, and it's your responsibility to go and learn. That is your responsibility for the next 13 years, which kind of depressed him a little bit, I think, for 13 years of it.
Oh yeah. Doing the math on the number of years is sometimes rough when they're that little. Have you had the discussion yet, or what is your plan for the discussion on? I mean, I'm sure he's asked questions already, but how he came to be and who his biological father is? No, not yet.
He hasn't really bothered. We talk about his donor. We don't talk about his dad because it's his donor. He's a non-anonymous donor, so when he's 18, William can contact him by letter if he wants to. It's up to him. I'll support him whatever he decides. So there's a bit more creeping in occasionally about dads and stuff, but not much. He's young, and it's not a school he goes to. There's only 23 kids in it. There's a fair mix of kids. There's single mums. There's a big mix. So his best friend, she's still in nursery, unfortunately. She doesn't come up to next year. Her dad doesn't live with him, but he's still active in his life. But they talk about it between themselves, and you get a little bit afterwards. You hear what he says sometimes. He's working through it. He'll ask me. I'm open about it. I'm very open about it. He's told me, why doesn't he have a daddy? And I sort of said, well, because I'm single, I don't have a husband or a partner, and I wanted to have a kid, and without one, I couldn't. Without a donor, I couldn't have you. Oh, okay. And that was it. Walked away. Yeah, I think being open about it. It's like the whole sex education thing. He's a farm kid. They know what it is. They're not gonna. He knows what it all is. He knows all the correct terminology for all the bits and bobs. He knows a lot of the age appropriate slang ones as well. He kind of knows the basics of how it works. The tup goes out with the sheep and the jump and sprays his eggs in special cells inside to meet with the eggs. Job done, It'll age. So I'm taking the same approach to the donor as I am to the whole sex education thing. If it comes up, I answer it. If it doesn't, carry on, I did a talk. I was invited in to talk with the primary fives in a local school in their farming bit. And it was 2 classes of 9 and 10-year-olds. And I was like, right, we're going to talk about poop and sex, basically. Because if I was a 9 or 10-year-old, when somebody came in, a farmer came in, it's the ideal opportunity to talk about it, and teachers cannot say anything to you. And at the end, I said to them, I'm actually really disappointed. And this is what I said, not one of you asked me a question about poop, and not one of you asked me a question about reproduction. You had the perfect opportunity to do it.
I have all the answers for you.
And the teacher's a farmer. Actually, the teacher I was in Young Farmers with, and that's why she asked me in. And she was sitting there, she's going, I can't wait to see how you answer it. And I thought she had them primed, but no.
No, they needed the anonymous question box option.
Yeah.
They're too embarrassed in front of each other. Yeah. So I feel like maybe I already know the answer to this question, but what is your favorite thing about raising a child on the land and with a connection to farming and agriculture?
The pure simplicity of it, I think. The stripping it back to what it's about. Spending time with them, teaching them things, teaching them life skills from an early age, just getting a hang out with them. Last night just before bedtime, just at sunset, about 7:30, we took a walk up the hill road as the sun was going down with the dogs. And it was perfect. It was lovely. It was a beautiful night. Me and him wandered. We had a chat. We picked some flowers. He put them in my hair and told me I was beautiful. And, it was just lovely. But it's the simplicity of it, I think. Yes, it's got its technical bits. It's got the hard bits. But like you said, Katie, it's the bullshit stuff that doesn't really matter. But you boil it down to it is the whole point, the essence of having a family is just being with them. And on farms, we're incredibly lucky that we can be quite a lot of the time.
They come up with such astoundingly weird shit, too. I love it so much. Kids just... It's that, like, kids say the darndest things, but I think on the farm, too, there's so much for them to notice and to see and to learn about. And that's some days incredible in a good way, and some days incredible in a don't ask me another fucking question kind of a way. Like, here's Google, here's how Google works, quit talking.
Like, William's back at school. He's only been back like 3 weeks because our term starts when was it? I can't remember when it was. August sometime, can't really remember. Last week I got the phone call from the school. I think I was doing a podcast or something. The phone went. I was like, that's the school. I've got to answer it. And it was a secretary, and she's a farmer's daughter. Her brother was actually here fixing my bobcat just short ago. And she's like, Sally, William's not well. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll come get him just shortly. I'll be there. And she goes, I'm delighted though. She's in a way, I'm delighted. She says, I said to him, what's wrong? And he came in and he went, I've had a skittery poop and I need to go home. The skitter, runny poop. And he's like, it's great. I knew exactly what was wrong and didn't need to worry about trying to figure out what euphemism, what kid was using. But it's basically come in and said, I had a runny poop and I need to go home. And I'm like, okay, that's, black or front. It's clear, but we're gonna not have to worry about what he says about things because it's just as it is, it's matter of fact. So yeah, it's quite funny.
That's right.
So, what is your biggest parenting struggle with a 5? Trying to remember 5.
5.5-year-old. Biggest, getting a bath on my own. I don't need him to come in and say, Mummy, I've just brought Superman in. Spider-Man wants to come and keep you company. Here you go, Mummy. Or Mummy, Bluey needs to come and have a bath with you. Or here's some Lego. Do you like my Lego toy, Mummy? Can I come in with you? No, you can't. The door's shut. Get out. As much as I love him deeply, I just would like a stinking hot bath by myself. And my bed. I'd like my bed back sometime fairly soon because he's in the bed with me because he didn't sleep. He was every 2 hours through the night until he was about 3.5 or 4. I fed him at night time until he was about 3.5 or 4. Weaned himself during the day at 14 months old, but would not give up at night. And because I'm on my own, when he was screaming blue murder, it was easier just to. I took the easy option. I kept feeding him. And then over a course of 2 nights, he stopped. And that was it. But he just hasn't quite migrated out of my bed yet. And I'd miss him too, because he's a cozy wee thing. But
starting to get bigger and gangly.
Yeah, ours migrated out, but then they migrated back in. And yeah, it is. I mean, it's nice to have that little quiet time with them. But also, yes, it would be nice to have more than 18 inches of our king-size bed.
the feet, the sharp little toenails.
Oh my God, the toenails! The toenails in the middle of the night. It's... Oh. Yeah, and I was telling Arlene yesterday, I think, that we have one bathroom because we have an old house, and the door doesn't lock because we had moved it. And the other day, I had all 3 members of my family in the bathroom while I was showering. And I'm like, you guys, you could all get the fuck out. Or just a thought, because I'm trying to shave my legs and wash my hair and not kill any of you, and that would be easier if you weren't in here.
And I've been in your house and it's not that spacious either. It's not like you have a giant bathroom.
No, it's a very small bathroom. Yeah, it's
It's like even when you're going in to have a pee and you're having a poop, they come in and they sit and it's like, can you not make eye contact with me? I'm on the toilet just now. Please step away. I try to do the thing. I've tried to do the knocking on the door right from when he's little, before I come in and I ask, can I come in? And he's good now. He's yes or no. Sometimes he says no and I respect that, But it's like he still needs me to wipe his bum as well. So I have to stand outside the toilet and wait until I can knock and he tells me to come in. And I'm like, oh, I'm summoned, my servant, please come. It's like, but then when I'm in, I'm like, you need to knock, and he will stay outside now. But we have got a little gap under the door, and the fingers start coming through, or the stick starts coming through, and I'm like, just go.
saying now you have 1 cat and 7 kittens, right? So aren't they all going to come stick their fingers under the door?
A toy gets shot in underneath the...
Well, we have 4 cats of our own, so we actually technically have 11 cats just now. It's a technicality because...
The real question is, does Grandpa stick his fingers under the door? Because I feel like that would really be too far. Like...
Granddad's got his own bathroom. There's a spare bathroom. We did a spare bathroom up when Mum wasn't well. We put a wet room in, and his bathroom's the only. I added an extension when William was born, and Granddad's bathroom's the only one that's en suite. So that's the boys' bathroom because obviously they just make a mess. So I'm like, go to that one. That's mummy's bathroom. You get through to the other boys' bathroom. And when I have guests over, it's like, come to the posh bathroom, which is mine. Don't use
I know this one is clean. What is a piece of parenting advice that you have either learned along the way or someone shared with you that you would want to share with another parent?
I think it goes back to what my granny said years and years ago, before I had William. I can't even remember, were we talking about my nephews, or I actually think we're talking about my dad, maybe still. And granny says it's just a phase. They'll come out of it as soon as they went into it. And she says phases don't stop. And I think my dad at that point was 70s, oh, maybe late 60s. And she says, your dad's still having phases and he'll come out of it the same as he went into it. So it's just a phase. Just bide your time and they'll come out of it. And I think it's true. None of them last. None of the phases last, especially in that from newborn to 5 or newborn to 4, I think is so fast. And they change so, so much. And then they suddenly hit about 4.5 and they suddenly seem to mature so much then as well. And I'm sure there will be a lot more phases, but this one seems to have been a lot longer now. It's not so noticeable as when they're little, I think. He's a good kid. I have to say he is a good kid, basically.
It really is incredible how much a human learns in those first 5 years, right? To go from a blob essentially to a real human, and on all the things that we learn in those 5 years. It's amazing.
And I think the hormones associated with pregnancy are incredible as well, because when you look back at your brand newborn baby photos of this thing that you thought was the most beautiful baby ever, and you look back at them now, you're kind of like, yeah, no, okay, well, he's not that cute at that stage.
I'm gonna say, Sally, for all the shit that C-sections get, having had 2 big babies by C-section, my babies were gorgeous. Because, yeah, they don't get squished near as much in a C-section. When, vaginal birth babies do get a little roughed up generally on the process. Cone heads and bruises and
Oh, William was just my dad looking at me, but at 70 or 80. But he was a newborn, and you put him side by side, my dad and this newborn, and they're just about identical. It's quite freaky, actually.
All right, so we ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
Speech making. Standing on a stage and just talking about whatever subject you give me, 100%. And not giving the stage up to anybody else.
You're the one who requires that big hook that they sometimes, like the cartoons show. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I did young farmers speech making, not as much as I should have done, actually. But I was speaking with a friend at the weekend about it who also did young farmers speech making, and I think it sets you up for life.
It really is a great skill. Yeah, if you can be comfortable at it, it makes a difference. Yeah.
I'm going home with a trophy that day. Basically, just leave it.
Yeah, bring it on. All right, we will move into our cussing and discussing segment. If you're a listener and want to submit yours, you can either use our SpeakPipe or our email, barnyardlanguage@gmail.com. Katie, what do you have to cuss and or discuss this week?
I think as humans, we think so much about the grief of losing pets or humans or whatever, but as farmers, the loss or even having to sell animals, particularly because we do live service for our sheep and our cattle, and there's only so long that you can keep the same animal. And we're in the process of selling our bull, and he's 8 years old, so realistically, he's going to go to the slaughter market. And I mean, he's a bull. He's a nice enough bull, but it's not like we've been braiding each other's hair. He doesn't live in my house. We're not. He has a name, but I haven't, like raised him from a tiny baby or anything. But he's gotten us so far in our farm, and he's taken such good care of our cows, which I know sounds like a weird thing to say, but he's been so gentle to work with and so good with the cows and the calves, and he's just real chill. And I know that the slaughter market is fast. It's not horribly inhumane. It's not objectionable in any way. But I really don't want to. And this weekend we lost a ram who was the first nice ram that we bought in. And at a time we're coming up with that, you know, $300 or $400, however much he was an investment, and picking him out and going to all these different breeders and that. And we got him when I was pregnant with our daughter, and she's in third grade. So he's made a lot of lambs. Always kind of a dick. Not real nice. Fairly nice to the sheep, not real nice to humans, which is fine. Male animals, that's what they do. But he, again, was such a huge genetic leap and such an investment and such a part of that turning point of our production, and something about losing the ram and having to sell the bull in the same week is just, especially because we're big tough farmers. Like, there's this implication that it should just be easy because, especially, they're males. You don't get the same bond with them generally that you do with the females. And I didn't raise either of them from a baby, and I never intentionally spent bonding, cuddling time with either of them because one of them is aggressive and smelly, and one of them is just smelly and huge. Um, and it just seems kind of ridiculous, but here we are. So if anybody needs an 8-year-old Normandy bull, for reasons, you know where to come get him. But yeah, it's rougher than I expected.
Feelings don't have to make sense, Katie.
I always say, so I was going to say, what I always say on my farm here is the day we stop feeling bad or stop having feelings when we sell an animal is the day we should stop farming. So it's part and parcel of it, but it shows compassion and empathy. And it's, if we don't have that in farming and animals become a number, then we shouldn't be doing it. It's not our job, you know.
And reasonably with the bull, if we were going to process him to eat, I'd still feel bad, but I wouldn't feel nearly as bad as I do about selling him to slaughter. But realistically, we don't need 2,000 pounds of dog meat. He's not fit for human consumption.
It doesn't need to serve your family in order for him to have still served his purpose in life, right?
Yeah. And it will serve our family because it'll help pay for the next bull. But
That's right. And we know cattle prices are high, so he's big.
there's that. There's that. He's just a big old money pit walking around. Sally, what do you have to cuss and discuss today?
Oh, I think cuss, actually. I have my Facebook page, obviously, and I have 7 kittens. And I put a wee video up of them the other night of the kittens playing in the thing, and it's had a bit of traction, decent bit, 30, 40 odd thousand views. And so many are like, oh, they're beautiful, they're lovely. And then you get this subsection of people, neuter your cat. Karen on Facebook says, spay your cat, spay your cat. This is disgraceful. You're causing problems, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we've had this same line of cats for 20 something years. They came from a neighbour. They're an amazing line of cats. We've always got one queen who's having kittens. We don't give them away. We make sure they've got good homes. Our local vets quite often put people on to me. Most people who have had kittens off us 20, 25 years ago are coming back, maybe once or twice. We're not causing a problem. We are not doing anything. But the abuse I've taken for it, and it's like, oh, you have to go to a shelter and adopt, and you have to do this, and you have to do, and I hate that side of it. One of the things I said to one lady was, so you're telling me that I can't breed cats and sell cats because you can't have money for your kittens, but I'm a farmer and I sell lambs and calves. Should I not take money for them either? I make sure we have good homes. 4 of these are going to immediate family. One's staying here. I love having kittens. They're great. I'm a crazy cat lady. But it's this whole subset.
Sally, next time ask if she wants you to eat the kittens instead. that will horrify her to such a degree that she will forget all about the rest of it.
She'll ban me. She'll block me, hopefully, and delete my page or whatever.
Good, then you won't have to deal with her.
This is why Katie's not on Facebook anymore. She makes bad decisions.
Okay. I have to bite my tongue. I blocked somebody. I wrote a whole big ass reply the other night with a raging hangover, and I was quite pissed off. So I actually deleted it and blocked the wifey instead because it was easier. But it's that subsection, that's what I'm wanting to discuss, that subsection of the internet who thinks that their view is the only view, and the animal rights kind of thing that doesn't actually have any relation to real life in a lot of ways.
Right. And they have no context. They don't know you or the situation. They have, it's just, I mean,
the video is the kittens inside the house. It's not like they're outside and they're feral. The cat's eating more food than I am, and better quality food than I am at the moment, probably, But yeah, they're just at times. I love the internet. I'm a social media addict. I am, but there's that side of it that just drives me insane at times,
Arlene, what do you have to cuss and discuss?
So mine is a discuss this week. My husband and I attended kind of a lunch and learn / customer appreciation day last week for our seed salesperson. And so there were a few different speakers. They talked about crop insurance and inputs and, market outlook for this year. And they also touched on the fact that in our area, it's been a significant drought year, like a lot of people. And 2 out of the 3 speakers, both as part of their talk and not in a big, attention grabbing, let's sit and talk about our feelings way, but both of those speakers both touched on the idea of reaching out if you need support, checking in with your neighbors who weren't there. The people, the one of them said, I feel like most of us in this room are going to be okay because we're the ones who left the farm and are here together. But, look around, see who's not here, check in on them, see how people are doing. And I just thought that we talk about mental health in agriculture, and we talk about it on this podcast all the time, but it seems like the last few years it's more acceptable to talk about. And I just saw it in action. It was the way that we should have always been talking about it, where it's like, the reality is this is a hard year for a lot of people, and we're not alone, even though it feels like we are. And, reach out. And if you need to talk to someone, the one guy said, I'm used to it. Give me a call. I can be that person if you need me to be that person. And I just thought it was really neat to see how it's just become more common and just part of the conversation, which is a huge step. I think that it's good to see that we're getting there.
I think it's worldwide too. Everybody's talking about it more here as well, which is great.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And we've had conversations with people from Australia and New Zealand who are, obviously the same conversations are happening, which is amazing. So Sally, thank you again for coming to chat with us today. It was great to meet you and have these conversations. And if people want to come and see videos of your kittens or other things that are happening on the Croft, where should they find you online?
I am on Facebook at The Croft. It's at My Wee Crofty is the handle for it. I hang out there every day. I post far too much. I'm always there, basically.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you both. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Sally.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.